Shabbat Shalom. I want to share a couple of things with you today. First of all, I want to share these special portions so that you'll have them in your mind. These special Haftorot will be the Haftorah for Shekalim. And remember, the shekel, the half shekel, was how the Israelites took their census. Okay? The census was taken. It seemed like almost on an annual basis. Then we have Haftorah for Shabbat Zakor. The word Zakor means to remember. Who are we remembering? Amalek. Okay? And remembering what Amalek did to the children of Israel and their tribe as they came out of Egypt, how he indeed attacked the weakest part of the community. And this Shabbat is Shabbat Parah. And as I explained to you, 1 month before Pesach, everybody had to be purified. You know why? Because you're coming towards Yerushalayim and the Holy Knesset. And everybody was almost in a state of priesthood, because each family is making their own land in that preparation for that period. Then there's Shabbat Hagadol. That is the great Shabbat that we read every year that immediately precedes Pesach. Shabbat Hagadol. Okay? But I was reading, I read a lot of stuff, but I was going through some things. I was starting to develop a paper. I want to share 2 things with you today. I was reading something with great interest from the Chabad.org website. Chabad is the Orthodox Jewish website. I was reading something about a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Funnye. The Rabbi Funnye says, the question is, are Jews a race? Rabbi Funnye says, while the Jewish people began with the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, many people have converted to become Jews over the millennia, beginning with the mixed multitude that came with us out of Egypt. So he says, today there are African Jews, Japanese Jews, even Eskimo Jews. It seems difficult to call such a mixed multitude a race. Then he goes on to say, incidentally, there is really no such thing as a race. The term race implies to most people that there are different categories of human beings based on their genetic makeup. The fact is that no basis in genetics for these distinctions. For example, an African from one family may have more in common genetically with a Swede than another African. What could be said is that we are a family. A family can adopt others as their own, but there are conditions to adoption. You need to keep family rules. In our case, those rules have to do with the mission we were given at Mount Sinai over 3,300 years ago. While I agree with just about everything that Rabbi Funnye has to say regarding the question of the Jews a race, it is quite clear that the Jewish people have never been a race. Jews have always looked like the people in the nations in which they were found. So this fact would also stand out in the Exodus story. Just as we read about the mixed multitude that left Egypt, I would posit that there were probably more in the mixed multitude than actual descendants of Jacob that left Egypt. I give as an example what the Torah says about Jacob's family. Jacob enters Egypt with 70 souls. Joseph and his family are already there. When the Israelites leave Egypt, the Torah tells us that they number 600,000 men above the age of 20. This is not counting women and children. The estimated time that the Israelites spend in Egypt, according to Israelites were in Egypt for 400 or 430 years or even 700 years. You have to do the math. Would there be time to work as slaves and build all that they are alleged to have built? This is even more apparent when we consider the number of different people who became a part of the Jewish people. A clear example of this is found in several books of the Tanakh. We covered one of these last week. The book of Esther, the 8th chapter, the 17th verse. And it says, in every province and in every city, when the king's command and decree arrived, there was gladness and joy among the Jews, a feast and a holiday. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews had fallen upon them. Remember King Ahasuerus' province stretched from India to Ethiopia. It had 127 provinces or governors. Even the Jews in the different provinces had Hebrew, but they also had that native language that they spoke relative to the country that they lived in. Ruth, the first chapter, verses 16 through 17. But Ruth replied, do not urge me to leave you. Turn back and not follow me. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die. There shall I be buried. Thus and more may the Lord do to me, if anything but death parts me from you. Zechariah 8 and 23. Thus said the Lord of hosts, in those days 10 men from the nations of every tongue will take hold. They will take hold of every Jew by the corner of his cloak and say, let us go with you. For we have heard that God is with you. Exodus 12 and 38. Moreover, a mixed multitude went up with them, and very much livestock, both flocks and herds. There are so many more references in the Torah that speak to the true diversity of the children of Israel, of the Jewish people, that I cannot name them all at this time, but I'm going to build on this paper. But I do want to add a few more references. I want you to have on your mind Numbers chapter 12 and verse 1. Moses marries a Cushite woman. Cush is not in France. Cush is not in Germany. Cush is not in Poland. It's not in Lithuania. Cush is the ancient name. And we don't know how much of the continent it encompassed. The other thing is there were two Cushes. East Cush and a West Cush. And the Cush of the East was Indian. And then came all back the way over to Ethiopia. And do not think of Ethiopia as that small territory that has been carved out and that we call Ethiopia today. It was a very huge place. And never forget this, because people really got to get sold on Egypt and Egypt, the pharaohs. When the Egyptians prayed, they turned to the south. They turned to the direction from whence they came. They came from Ethiopia. Don't ever let anybody tell you any different. Cleopatra was a beautiful woman. She just didn't live like Liz Taylor. She's beautiful too. So just don't get caught up. You know, seriously, our children will start believing these things. So we have to really redirect the misinformation and the mishistory that they receive. And I think this is so very important because, as I said to you before, when I was in a debate with an Orthodox rabbi about them having on their book, the Haggadah for Purim, he had this, the children that Mordecai dressed like a Lithuanian Jew in the 18th century. He said, well, okay. So I thought, I said, you know Mordecai didn't look like that. And I know Mordecai didn't. But if they will take that type of license, you must also take that license in projecting to your children so that they see themselves in the equation and not absent of the equation, and not looking for someone else to give them permission to come into the door, to enter the room. They have just as much right to be in the room as any other group of Jews. Therefore, our Jews that are from East and West Europe are called Ashkenazi Jews. Our brethren from Spain and Portugal are called Sephardi Jews. Our brothers from North Africa are called Mizrahi Jews. Our brothers from Yemen are called Yemenite Jews. Okay? The Jews from Ethiopia are called what? Beit Israel. We are Jews of African descent. You are not Ashkenazi. You are not Sephardi. You are not Mizrahi. You are not Yemenite. And there are many brothers in a lot of different places that feel that they have to identify their Judaism by being connected to one of those groups. That you have to like what they like to eat. That you have to dress like that. And when my good friend, the Orthodox rabbi, said, you know, Rabbi, you are more Jewish than most Reformed Jews that we know, and a lot of the conservative. You just need to become Orthodox and everybody, will accept you. I said, but Rabbi, you're telling me I will have to dress like you to be a good Jew? That I would have to identify myself and use a dialect of Hebrew that you use to gain myself some sense of who I am as an Israelite, as a Jew. By the way, it was not until the 1840s and 50s when Jews in this country started defining themselves as Jews. Prior to 1840s and 1850s, the Jewish community here defined themselves as Israelites or Hebrews. There's a book called The Price of Whiteness, and it lays out, came out about in 2008, and it lays out how the Jews became white in America. Because prior to that time, the Jews were not considered to be white. But Isaac Meyer Weiss, who was the head of the Reform movement, wanted the Jewish people to be a part of the pejorative culture who happened to be European people. And so they switched off. They switched off being Israel, Israeli, Ivri, Hebrew, to become Jews. And then distincting and making Jews something distinct like other Europeans. Okay? So we have to be very careful in our understanding of what we're doing with these things. So Moses marries a Cushite woman. Exodus 2. Exodus 2 and 19. And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherd. And moreover, he drew water for us and watered the flock. This Egyptian is Moses, who escapes into Midian. And there he meets the Midianite priest, Jethro. Okay? Genesis 50 and 10. And when they came to the threshing floor of Etam, which is beyond the Jordan, and there they wailed with a very great and sore wailing. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. Verse 11. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, about their life, to bury him, all right, to take him back. And the people in the land looked at the Jews and called them what? Egyptians. Okay? And again, I love Cecil B. DeMille's movie. I mean, Yul Brynner standing up there, man, with that nice skirt on. You know, he bad. Some of that jewelry he has on. Moses, Zipporah, and all of the pictures. Let me posit this with you. If you remember, right when the plague's coming down, Moses' adopted mother comes to the door. And she wants to come in. And somebody says, one of the rulers of Egypt. And Moses says, this woman took me and nurtured me and nourished me. And so she comes in. And she says, well, can my servants come in too? They're 4 black people. Come in. And you would think there's only 4 black people in the whole thing that left Egypt. Symbols are everything. Symbols are everything. You have to watch and understand the symbols that you feed your children. Because you will have them thinking that other people are above them. That other people have more or have something greater or are closer to God than you are. No one on earth is closer to God than you. Because we have to get out of the silly season. And I want you to graduate. I want you to graduate. Some from the 8th grade and some from high school. And some from junior college and some from college. Some of us have graduated from one place. And we understand and don't understand and misunderstand ourselves. And you think, because I wear a tie every day, that I'm not a black man. You think I'm trying to imitate somebody else? Like I told some brothers with a whole lot of culture, which part of Africa do you want to start at? And let's start naming those countries in Africa, what languages those people speak, and tell me how many of them you've been to. Understand. If you don't understand yourself, then you are going to be led astray to how others see you. Understand that and never forget that. Never forget that. In the book of the prophet Jeremiah, Jeremiah 39:15-18, the word of the Lord had come to Jeremiah while he was still confined in the prison. He was in the prison compound. Then it said, go and say to Ebed-Melech, the Ethiopian, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of them an everlasting name, which shall not perish. As for the foreigners who attach themselves to the Lord, to minister to him, and love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, all who keep my Shabbats, and do not profane it, and who hold fast my covenant, I will bring them to my sacred mount, and let them rejoice in my house of prayer. Look at this now. They make this sound like something the priest would do. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices shall be welcome on my altar. For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Thus declared the Lord God, who gathers the dispersed of Israel. I will gather still more than those already gathered. Self-defining comes through self-definition and knowing oneself. But you got to read. You're not going to get it from television. You're not going to get it all off the internet. That's why I started out with Chabad Rabbi. What he's actually saying is that only if you follow the rules as they understand the rules can you become a part of the tribe. But you see, the rules differ, don't they? Because Sephardi Hebrew is different than Ashkenazi Hebrew. And Yemenite Hebrew is different than both Sephardi and Ashkenazi Hebrew. The pronunciation and the various portions that they read and when they're read. Never ever think. Never ever think. Because you don't have a people that have found a way to unify themselves, that they are a powerless people. We are powerless because we make ourselves powerless. We make ourselves powerless through our divisiveness. We make ourselves powerless through this way, lack of basic learning. When we say young men stand up, then you got to look brother, not young. These children have to be taught every day. Do your children know the Shema? Do they know how to bless prayer? Wait, that's his daddy. They can bless prayer. They need to know the name of God. You know that you need to have time that you turn that television off and connect with them on a cultural and spiritual level, so that they have this understanding of self. They need to understand it when they sit at the table to eat, that it is God who blessed them to receive that which they are about to nourish their bodies with. And never just jump up somewhere, run around, and sit down and start fressing. And fress is what animals do. They smell. No. There is an order. There is an order. And there is a desire to not just build that sense of unity amongst our brothers and sisters in this city or this state of this country, but across this world. Because we are Jews of African descent. We are Beth Yisrael. We are Bnai Yisrael. And we read it today. Call that Bnai Yisrael. The whole congregation of the children of Israel. Say to all of them, and that you shall keep the Shabbat. Then it says, say to all of them that you are to bring gifts. And the people gave so much. Why did they give so much? Because a week or so ago, they was with that golden calf, wasn't Listen, the work is before us. The children have to see us respecting the elders, to know that this is how you treat an elder. Man or woman, the elders are now. And as long as they're respectful, we respect them. Let us teach them through our example. Because what you say don't mean nothing when I see you going in the opposite direction from what you just told me. Don't drink. Leave that grass alone. Can't go by the bedroom door. Dad. Don't mess around on your wife. Did you get out? What do we say? It is imperative that you say little and do much, than say a lot and turn people away from God by your very actions that are against what you're trying to teach about God. So you have to live it. You have to walk it. You have to do it. You have to love it. And then they will get it. Then they will have it. Then they will love it. Then they will want it. Then they will teach it to their children's children's children. And then you'll still be here. From door to door. From generation to generation. Keeping that faith in the Most High God. Shabbat Shalom.